Hey guys, welcome back to the episode of the Quarter Clock Talk podcast. It's your boy John, and as always, we are here to discuss the latest in football with you guys. This week, we're gonna continue the theme of talking Champions League, but we're gonna also use that to open up some bigger discussions, mostly pertaining to Real Madrid, and then even talk about like the state of what we consider superstars in the game. But that is the meat of the matter. Those will be later down. We're gonna start off with the other ties that did not involve Real Madrid, use those things to kind of build the conversation up leading to that, and just to give you all a taste of what to expect today. And to do so, I had to try this new change and forward. I have Brandon here with me. Brandon, was he good, my guy?
Yo, what going on, everyone?
And then we have Pat. Pat, was he good?
Good as always.
I won't spread the man business too much, but Pat recently became the head coach in his team of the under
Nice,
11s. And now
congratulations.
he is the head coach. Before he was the assistant for the under 12s, I believe, but now he have his own batch to trade on his own. And we are very much proud of the progressions but dog making as a coach out there. I telling them trying I know it yet, but they had the next Pep Guardiola coaching them even from now.
Okay.
Wait, Daniel,
But
the
Unfortunately,
man
yeah,
say you're gonna be ball boy. He tell you you're gonna get ball boy.
that is never going to happen.
that never happened.
My airline so
Fats is one
strong.
of them who would you like
Yes,
go on the Brazil and or
100%.
Turkey route?
100%. Because
I understand.
I
I
respect it, I
cannot grow a
respect it.
beard, so I need hair somewhere on my face.
Yeah, true.
All
Yeah.
True,
right,
true.
cool. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So Aston Villa versus PSG, guys, is the first one that we have on the docket. And I mean, obviously with every game, football is a combination of two things happening at the same time. And in the second leg, what we saw was a mix between like PSG really being shaken and holding on, and Villa really pushing them. That really produced a fantastic game. I mean, at one point the gap was 4 goal difference between the two teams after Mendes and Hakimi had scored. But PSG was so resilient. I'm sorry, Aston Villa was so resilient that they managed to claw back to be within 1 goal, and there wasn't some heroics in the end by Donnarumma. We could have go into extra time and probably even better for Villa. But I'm gonna start with you, Brandon. What was your overall thoughts on the second leg of this tie?
Well, this one, I mean, along with the rest of them, all but one of the ties had the same results in both legs. So this, I mean, it was great for the neutral like myself because my team not in
Yeah,
this, but the Aston Villa game I thought was great, bro. I thought it was excellent football. I thought one of the overall teams I'll also be talking about like as we continue for the whole pod is that I felt like I was watching vintage football. I felt like
mm,
I was watching football like that the way it's supposed to be played. And Villa didn't get off to a great start. But I think the second half, especially, oh my goodness, that was a amazing performance. And I mean, in the end, I mean, they didn't go through and they got knocked out. I mean, but I mean, definitely, I could say they didn't go out. You know, they didn't go out in the wrong way. They went out as best as they could. They went out fighting. They had great goals. They continued. They could have won the game. And
yeah.
that was kind of for me. That was kind of the story of it. It was they played well, but it just was in the end. It just wasn't enough, and PSG had too much quality for them.
Yeah, I mean, I do think like we end up having to see a different side of PSG in this as well, because they really had to show some of the hold on that, and credit to somebody like Donnarumma who has had accusations of the past of having a soft stomach, really stood strong, and it was in those moments that he really came alive. But and from the Villa side of this, sorry, from the PSG side of this, is there anything that you feel like Villa exposed for not just Arsenal, who they have next, but whoever have them in the final, should be targeting if they want to make the most of the weaknesses in this PSG side?
I mean, I think I think the only thing you could really target with PSG is maybe trying to press them because I don't think they build too well. At least in the first phase, it's not super fantastic or anything, and they have some error-prone guys in the back there too. So that would be maybe my strategy if I was going up against them. I also feel like you could get them with pace on the
Mm,
wings only because of how high and tucked in sometimes their fullbacks get.
yeah,
If you could
yeah,
make like 2v2, 3v2 situations on counter attacks, you might see some joy, you know?
yeah. And I mean, like, Brandon, you could comment on this as well. One thing I felt like I saw that was a big part of them turning the tide in this fixture was like Onana started to take a real presence in the midfield. and like his physicality really helped, like almost like a man-to-man job at times on Vitinha in particular. Because like even though both João Neves and him do a lot of on the ball stuff, Vitinha feels like the heartbeat of that midfield, and by getting him to be kind of out of the game, it made it so that they could go again and again and again and again at PSG. And I think like for any side going forward, as Patrick said, there's advantages behind the wingers as well as physically overcoming that midfield might be the way forward to like stopping them from making most of what is the effervescent front line. But I mean, in the second leg, we didn't see much from Dewey, Cavaskelia, Dembele. Is there cause for concern there for you guys, or it was just in nature how they titled?
Yeah,
It was just how it
Like
was
I want to
open.
totally agree with you. Oh no, I don't know. Daniel, you want
it
to
was
go?
open. It was open. It was open. Any one of you?
No, go for it.
No, I was saying, sometimes I was hate you, John, because you just take on my points, and without even we don't even talk about it before. But I am 100% on you with the Vitinha point, bro. Like that was the first time I thought watching him for the entire season. I was like, okay, I really not sure if he was having a bad game or if this was, like if it there were tactically things that he was getting wrong. Because I thought he looked really bad. And I thought João Neves looked pretty
Yeah,
bad too. I thought Fabian Ruiz was actually best on the midfield tree, to be honest. And then looking at the wingers, I mean, they probably could have done a bit more. I mean, that kind of is harsh saying, granted that they went through. But I
yeah,
do think that after watching how Villa approached the game, I feel it has less to do with tactics and like how you go at them. Like I feel like if you go at them, they have no other choice but to answer. And sometimes when they go forward, they're not as lethal as we think. But because I mean, over the tide, it was they could have scored more and they probably should have scored more. So I think that's
yeah,
probably the only thing. I mean, I think getting at the midfield clearly worked, and I just think if you're daring the forwards to score, that might be their detriment because I've seen a lot of those players in pressure moments, bro. They just don't come true, and you
yeah,
gotta hope. I mean, for your sake, I know you're hoping that that's the case, but
yeah,
yeah, I just think it was a lot exposed, bro. I mean, for every single team too. I mean, that's a common theme I'm gonna have when I'm talking about a lot of these games too. That was a huge thing for
yeah,
every single game. There were a lot of exposes or exposing done to all these teams.
yeah. That is fair. Pats, anything you want to add on that?
No, that's I think that's good.
I mean, I know like when a team gets knocked out, it is very rarely that we feel very like proud of them. But looking at where Villa have come in this project, that I really do believe that Emery over the years has grown as a coach, and I genuinely believe that. And I think like where Villa is now, it really does feel like both a team and a manager meeting each other at the right time in their history because they went to the quarterfinals. They went out in the best way, as Brandon said, without losing dignity. They went out fighting. They literally went out a goal away from against one of the best attacking sides in the world. And then like when we even watch the league now, they join points with fifth. Headed into the last few games, and they very much control their own destiny because they still play some of the sides above them. And with a huge win this weekend that they had against Newcastle, where I thought that they completely outclassed them. We probably won't go into that game per se, but they were so much better than them. And Newcastle have been on steaming hot form. Like, they started defeating me like, yeah, they might be pole position to get Champions League again next year. And I think getting quarterfinals, I want to say that they reached these. Are they in the cup finals? They are. They are in the cup this weekend, right? They are in the semi-finals for the FA Cup, right?
Villa, you talking about,
I
right?
feel Villa, yeah. I want to say that they
No, I,
are.
I don't. I don't think they are. Let me
They
just double
are.
check. No, they are. They're playing Palace. You're right. They are playing
Yeah,
Palace. That's
right.
true.
And so, like, that you're talking about a quarterfinals in Champions League, semi-finals in the FA Cup, and could make Champions League again next year. I mean, that is a stupendous season. And I mean, all credit to both Emery and the group there, man, because it is a brilliant group. Players coming in January and has impacted really well. And I just wanted to leave the floor open to you guys if you all have anything to say about Villa this season and how this project has gone so far with Unai Emery. Floor open.
I mean, I still think they could improve a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the tactics just feel a little weird, but you can see that they. But are they building though? Because like in terms of okay, they've managed to go much further into the Champions League than ever before. But then when they kind of look back at the Prem, I haven't felt like Villa have been really really strong or
Great
really really
throughout.
competitive, yeah, throughout the
Mm-hmm.
throughout this season. Not like how I feel about Newcastle at least. Maybe there's some recency bias there, but and that's why I'm thinking like I feel like they still have a lot more growing to do,
Mm-hmm.
and that leads over to acquisition as well. Like I think it's time to start if they want to cement themselves as like a top four contender at least. I feel they need to make some bigger signings apart from the attack. Because to me, every time they seem to make a big signing, it's a new attacker, that type of thing. But I would like to see them get like I don't know, like a decent centre back for example, because I don't think they defend very well, or maybe even like a really good number six. Those kind of hard to
Yeah.
come by. But you see what I'm trying to say though. I feel like the
Yeah.
project still it's not in its infancy for sure. But I feel like
Yeah,
they
because
still
I
have a
mean,
good way
like,
to go.
even when we watch, as you rightfully say, right, like when we think about like Villa big signings over the last few years, it has been, signing players like Diaby and stuff. The big spending has been in the front line as compared to, um, Matson is a highly talented player. Great game on the weekend again, but was on the cheaper end and stuff. The right back they just signed was from the second division in Spain, and I mean, honestly, not to be shrewd and stuff, but like as I say, like as they try to go up the profile of players, it probably needs to increase there as well. And I mean, my only counter to because I do agree with what you're saying. They have not been consistent throughout the league campaign. When I watch the other side fighting for this Champions League spot, you're talking about Forest, who was consistent up until recently and started to fall away. Chelsea has been inconsistent for the whole year. I mean, this was their first win in a good few weeks. City, who have been inconsistent whole season. And I think Newcastle was the only side that was really steaming running in form in the last few weeks. And I think that yes, it might be a bit of circumstances making it that they still have a chance to make the top four, top five rather. But I just also think that I just have byproduct of where the league is. Because I think like all five or six of those teams have like similar deficiencies or similar inconsistencies that are all coming to the fore that is making this race for the Champions League spots. So yeah. Brandon, anything? Yeah, all right, guys. So we're just gonna continue until Brandon reconnects. Either way, that was more or less it on Aston Villa versus PSG. Before we move off with Patsy, anything you want to add to?
No, no.
Cool. So next up we have Bayern versus Inter, and obviously, like it really was a game where it was back and forth a lot, and I do think this tie ended up being back and forth a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think across the two legs, I catch most of this via highlights because obviously this is going on the same time with the Arsenal game. But like it felt like Bayern had a lot more chances, and I thought Inter was going to give up. And I wanted
Yeah.
to know what was your thoughts on that because it is a side that we know for defensive solidarity, and it felt like Bayern had a lot of chances to put up to the sword, and between their own fluttering chances in front of goal and some are coming up big. It has been a case where um they didn't take make the most of it. So what did you think of that?
No, I think Man did really well in the final third. They just couldn't get the ball over the line for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Kane, I thought was pretty poor over the two legs. But I mean, it's not like it's all his fault anyway. I think they did well in the final third. There are some really nice combinations and stuff, but I, I think I think it was less about Inter not defending well, and I think Bayern just did really well again in the final third. But one thing that I noticed with Inter though is I feel like they opened up a little bit more in this game for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe they felt like, hey, what's going on? Maybe Inter felt like Bayern from like midfield go back was just so weak that they could afford to, you know, try a little bit more. But I
Yeah.
think that kind of opened them up for some counter attack situations and then also for some decent combinations in the final third for Bayern there. So like specifically their wing backs, I felt like their positions were a bit adventurous, you know. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I felt like the wing backs were a bit adventurous in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe didn't track all the way either, which is strange. I didn't really expect that. But yeah, I think credit to Bayern for
Yeah.
good combinations in the final two. Just couldn't finish. I feel like Inter get away with one, to be honest. Bayern should have won the tie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling as well. And Brandon, I'll let you in on this too. Like, it did feel like if Bayern had a lot of chances across these two legs, and given like how we know Inter to be defensively solid, that came as a shock to the neutral watchers.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't a shock to the neutral watchers that yeah, Bayern had so many chances. Harry Kane just didn't take a lot of them, and that is also one of the things I think like Bayern. This it was kind of weird for me because Bayern they lost Upamecano, right? And like they I don't know why they thought that they could get away from Inter without scoring those chances. Because I felt like across the two legs, and they had more chances than Inter, like significantly more chances. I really
Yeah,
wish that they did more and they took more of those chances. And in the end of it, though, like I know you said that you feel there was a lot of wasted chances from Bayern, but I think Inter also played better in the second leg than in the first
yeah.
leg. And I also the other thing is where I also think Bayern caught them on a bad day and they still didn't get through the ties. So overall, I just think it was a horrible outing for Bayern. I feel like Inter. I agree with all. I think Inter did get away with one, but not undeservedly. I feel like
Yeah.
if Bayern was serious in any kind of metric, they would be going through right now. But Inter
Well,
just
Brandon,
yeah, go ahead.
let me pause it there then. And the next point I had here was to talk about, the second leg did feel a lot more even. I did feel like both teams kind of made the most of the similar amount of chances. But the damage was already done in the first leg. And it feels like if, is this just going to be, I don't mean this to be rap, just talking it out, but is this Kane's legacy then? That another tie and another moment has passed. And like we were asking him to show up big in moments, and he did score in the second leg. I'm not taking that away from him. But like we saw how much went by him in the first leg. And when we talk about the great Madrid size and the Barca even now and stuff like the whole mark of what make these sides so good is that when they have their foot on the opposition neck, is that they kill them. They make the most of those chances. They put one, two, three past them. And it feels like if this is just another moment where Keane has allowed the moment to go past him, you know? And is this just going to be his legacy? Because he should go on to win the Bundesliga. I think they're 4 points clear at this point with like 5 games to go. They should go on to win it, but it does just feel like this was another time where they could have been better off. They gave the ball to the best finisher in the squad, and it still didn't come off for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure because he still has a few years to go, and you never know. He could probably pull it out at some point. But as of right now, bro, I mean, like it's just the story of Harry Kane. Like I feel like every year we talk about how great Kane has been for the season, how great he is as a striker, because those things are always true, and it's also true that he just never gets over the line. You said he would we win Bundesliga, and that's one thing, but Bayern didn't buy him to win the Bundesliga. They bought him to get them to the best trophy and the best prize in club football for them. And he just hasn't delivered, and it's unfortunate. And it's gonna be interesting to see what Bayern do next season as well, because I mean, Kane's only gonna get better in the Bundesliga. So I mean, looking forward for them, I think I don't know. I don't know. He's gonna be there, and his legacy is gonna continue to. He is the spearhead of Bayern for the next however many years he's gonna be there. So whatever happens with them, it's all going to be on him. And if they don't win a
Yeah.
Champions League in this time there, I mean, that'll be quite unfortunate. But I could see them winning more Bundesligas. But again, yeah, bro, I don't even know how to spin it positively for him. It just at some point I wish it just happens, but it doesn't.
Yeah, and I mean, like when and Pats, you can come in here is that like he was brought in not like same window for same window, but essentially he was brought in to replace Lewandowski. And it kind of ironic that like this season, Lewa has been scored a lot. that, but he always has been scoring out. This season, like what has been showing up in the big games though. And like it's not like just one big game, one big game. No, it's everyone. Is he two Clásicos? Is the Atletico Madrid games? Is he Champions League knockouts? Is he Champions League group stage against Bayern, against whoever else it is? And is it that like well, I say is it that like if I was leading or something, but more that like what is your thoughts then on the situation with Kane then? Because is there something that he should be doing better? Is there something that the team should be doing better? Is it that like it's unfair how much is asked of him? You know, what's your thoughts on it?
No, I don't think it's unfair how much they're asking of him. He's one of the best players in the world, and obviously they're gonna come with a lot of demands. I don't really
Yeah.
with the Lewandowski thing. I mean, I feel like that's kind of splitting hairs though, because they're both really good strikers in their own way, different styles
Hmm.
obviously, but we're talking about you know different systems here, different like both clubs are in different moments in their development. Bayern kind of went through a rebuild. Barcelona kind of gunning right now. So who's to say if they even swapped, if Lewandowski might have a good season there, or maybe he would take them to a Champions League finals. Maybe Kane would suffer at Barca, maybe he wouldn't. It's such a weird one to compare because we're talking about
Yeah.
two completely different situations. But I think for what you said about if it's unfair for all the pressure to be on Kane, I mean, yo, he's the main man in that squad, you know what I mean? And he's a striker nonetheless. So more reason for all the pressure to be on him. The rest of the team is doing their part and finding him in the penalty box. Well,
Yeah.
he has to score at some point. You know what I mean? Or he
Yeah.
has to score an important goal at some point. Maybe if they were able to turn around the tie and advance ahead of Milan, then that would have been, something to talk about. Because he did score in that game,
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
but it wasn't enough. And in the
Yeah.
first leg, it's basically his sins that how they end up in that position anyway. Because he
Yeah.
had some chances there that I was like, yo, this doesn't even look like Kane. I don't know who this white guy is, but this is
Yeah.
not Kane.
And I mean, like, it's one thing to talk about, like, yeah, he did score. Like, we're gonna talk about Girassi just now too, but like, it's also next thing to talk about how you reach to be in those positions in terms of like having this mountain to climb. Like a lot of these teams had moments along the way to either like reduce the deficit at points or to bring them level or whatever it is. And when it is that teams don't take their chances and other teams are, all it is that gap increase. And then if you turn it on after the fact, unless you pull off miracles, which we do see happen, but they don't always happen, then all it's gonna happen is like you go and end up amounting to nothing. When momentum is done gone, when the tie is done for gone, and what can you do? But I just brought up Grassy. The next time we have on the agenda is Barca versus Dortmund. And Patrick as a the Barca fan on the show, but also as somebody, who has watched them throughout this campaign. Do you feel that Gerassi and Dortmund have exposed anything that we didn't see before the season in the second leg?
No, no, I don't think so.
That's the expression. Nothing
No problem.
else to add.
I don't think they exposed anything. If you're
Were you
trying to
impressed by
get that,
Gerassi at all?
he always impresses me. I think he's
Yeah,
a
I
really
do think
good.
he's really good.
He's the complete package. He's a really good
Yeah,
finisher, but he does a lot to link the player as well. The only thing with him,
yeah.
I'd say that, and I think this is great, that he plays in the central zones only. So
Mm-hmm.
even when he drops in, he will never really rotate with one of the wingers or something. And I like it. He's a big guy. He's about 6'2" or whatever, and he's good at holding up the ball. And I think it makes the most sense for him to operate in those central zones. But I love how he's able to drop in and link the play, and then sometimes could even play tiki taka. His one touch play, I think, is really good. His field mapping, well, at least around him, is
Mm-hmm.
it's really impressive. And if Lewandowski was ever to leave Barcelona, and like if Lewandowski was to leave in the summer, for example, Guirassy would be, I think, welcome at Barcelona. He'd fit right in.
Well,
Anyway,
that's the highest
so
praise you can give him right now.
I don't think they exposed anything. Look, everybody talks about the high line. They weren't able to beat the high line either. So, and there's a reason for that. There's a lot of moving parts that goes with this offside trap, and there's a reason that Barcelona have had the most successful offside calls in the whole of Europe. They
Um,
stifle. Yeah, go ahead.
no, well, I was gonna say then one of the biggest changes on that day was no Pedri, right? Does
Uh-huh.
this highlight how important that he really is then? That he
Pe-
doesn't get the goals and assists. We know that.
no.
But is he like the ticking cog in this whole machine?
No. But he does a lot in he does a lot to set the tempo, and he does a lot in build up as well. But no, I don't think he's the ticking cog. If he got injured, I wouldn't say the season is over or whatever.
Okay.
I don't think anybody really is I don't think anybody in this team could get injured and the season is over, except maybe Inigo Martinez, but nobody else. And the only reason for that is because Inigo has no replacement, but everybody else basically has a replacement, or there's at least enough firepower on the other side. What I'm trying to get to though is that what happened in that game is more of a psychological thing than anything else. It's a really young squad, and they had just beat Dortmund 4-0, and now going into the second leg away from home,
They thought
I
it
always
was
felt like that was gonna, something like that was possible. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen, but I was not surprised at all. That Barcelona had a really slow start, and
mhm.
Dortmund played really well. So again,
Yeah.
I don't think they exposed anything per se. I'm sure we will get over to you guys, and I'd love to hear what you all have to say about that. But no, I think it was just a really bad performance from Barcelona. I think this was a great
Yeah.
time to have a bad performance. It's a really young squad, so I'm glad that they got slapped, and now they will understand that every game in the Champions League it does matter, because they
Yeah.
were one goal away from a major upset, literally just one. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm really glad that
So
happened to
last thing
them.
I'll ask you before I switch back over to Brandon and bring him into the conversation is that like way last few weeks we saw the 1-1 with Betis, obviously slap up Dortmund in the first leg, but we do know that Dortmund also had chances in that game. They're narrowly beaten Leganes in the midweek, then losing to Dortmund in this tie that we now said, and this weekend going ahead to a last minute winner from Rafinha. Do you feel that the form is shaking a little bit, or is just crazy games have been happening? But this is a lot of narrow games in a sense. Is that coincidence? Is there any cause for issue for you, or what is it?
Daniel, was you?
Parts of
Wait,
you.
I thought, oh, that was me? I thought that was
Yeah,
Brandon.
yeah.
Nah,
My
nah,
No,
nah.
bad, my bad. Oh, yeah, okay. Good thing I was paying attention and I didn't switch off. So, yeah, no, the league is more competitive than people give it credit for. I would say that much. And it's been a really sticky, like really tight schedule, you know?
it
So,
has one. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just look at one of the best performing teams in Europe right now domestically in Liverpool, right? Even they are struggling to be dominant against teams right now. So
Yeah. Fair enough.
not to answer a question based on comparison, but I'm just trying to say these things could happen.
Yeah.
You're
No,
not going
no.
to dominate
That's
every
fair.
single game. The most important thing is that they get results, and
Yeah.
still on top of the table, so that's good. This is a good moment, to be honest, to dip a little bit, because with Inter, on around the corner, now we can start back rising up a little bit again, and then go into Inter strong. They're gonna have to figure it out without Lewandowski, but I don't think it should be a major problem.
Well, my
I feel
next my
like,
question for Brandon was going to be like, how much does he feel like how much of a big messy thing Lewa is gonna be over his
Bro,
next few games?
bro,
And
a huge miss, bro. Jeez.
And yes, I'm aware, but I also wanted to just bring up real quickly the fixtures he's expected to miss. So it's Mallorca at home, then Real Madrid, Copa del Rey final. Then he's expected to miss both legs of Inter Milan with Real Valladolid away in the middle of that. And then lastly, he's expected to miss the Real Madrid tie at home in the league, the last El Clasico for the season. So there's some pretty big ones you have in there.
Yeah, bro. I mean, like, that is probably the worst of the fixtures he could be injured for, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think
yeah,
there's a run that Barcelona could have had throughout any point of the season, and it would have been as bad as that. Like, um, I don't really. I wanted to talk about not the exposing of Barcelona, because that's not the that's not the word. But I did notice something over the two legs, and if Jurassic had a good first leg,
Yeah.
then it would have been a totally different story because he had a lot of chances in the first leg, and I think his finishing was very poor in the first leg.
Hmm.
And then in the second leg, he played a lot better, and he ended up with a hat trick. So I don't know. I can't remember like during the season, but I know I know over the weekend this guy can't remember his name, Iglesias or whatever his name is.
Borja Iglesias,
Yeah, he also
the
scored a
man
hat trick
himself.
on Barcelona. I can't remember somebody else scored a hat trick on Barcelona recently as well. But what I'm trying to get at is I think that when you
It was
the only way to beat Barcelona is you have competent strikers because once they could finish whatever the scraps they're feeding on, that's the key right there. Because you're not gonna have more of the ball than them. You're not gonna outrun them. You're probably not gonna outpass them. Like you have to. It's pretty simple at the end of the day. And if there's one team that I think could actually do that, it would be Inter because they have two lethal strikers. And on the
Yeah.
day, they could rip you apart on any day. So it's not really much of something I saw exposed for Barca, but it would definitely be a concern if I was a Barca fan. It will go into that because I mean the two of them are the deadly, bro.
We're looking at now 51 goals and assists for Rafinha. Will you say that he's the front runner for the
The
Ballon d'Or?
front runner for what man of the match or
Sure. For the Ballon d'Or right now.
bro, honestly, it will depend on another season because it have other people who are making a case for themselves along with him. But I mean, I can't. Nobody gonna take away from this kind of season he having, bro. I don't think anybody saw this type of season coming from him as well. So
Yeah.
that's just good for
And
him. I hope it continues.
something that we did gloss over in the Bayern versus Inter game is that, we talk about the fact that, yes, Kane legacy has been what it is. Lautaro, on the other hand, did score in both
Both
legs.
legs.
And he is somebody that has had this thing, and we talked about it in previewing the tie of not showing up in those big moments, And bro, first goal was legit, and the second goal was like real just active beginning the box striker instincts to get the second one, and he's somebody who would also feel has a building campaign towards winning the Ballon d'Or. Because PSG, Barca, and Inter are all on for trebles, which is so crazy to see. But all three are on for trebles, and all three are still in the Champions League.
I actually did not know that. That's actually crazy.
Yeah. Fats, if I give up watching this sport in Flotaro with a Ballon d'Or.
I think I might as well. I'll being honest with you. Like at that point, if Rafinha went to, I might give up watching this sport as well. But
Oh well, bad news. I have
yeah,
some
bro.
bad news for you.
Yeah, bro.
Because one of them might.
I back in Yamal real strong right now. I back in Yamal real strong
That's
right now.
fine. I think if Yamal win the Ballon d'Or, that would be cool.
Yeah. No,
um,
I mean, I'll probably get into that later. But yeah, go ahead.
anything left on this tie you want to talk about? No? Yes? Cool? No? Nice. Cool.
I would just like to include something before we go on. I think, and I know I laughed about this in the group with you and Sean, but I really think bro Pedri is having an incredible season. Like, and the fact that they look so not much worse, but it's so evident when
Different.
he's not there how good he is. And I mean, whatever people think about Pedri, I just think, bro, it's undeniable how good he is and how great he is for Barcelona. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that in because I mean, bro, he having an amazing season, really is.
Yeah, yeah, nah, in this new role, like again, credit to Flick, though, because
Yeah,
Flick
true, 100%.
Flick had the stomach to try him in a defensive role, basically. And
Yeah.
yo, that's Flick might have actually saved this guy's career because if he got profiled as a 10 and that kept on for maybe 2 more years and then he got locked into a 10, I don't think it was going to work out.
Yeah,
But
and
Yeah.
this is nice.
ever since he came off in the Euros and Spain went on to win,
Yeah,
that people have always gonna use that against him. But I
yeah,
think like he making a real good case for himself, a real good comeback
yeah,
season. I had to say.
Yeah,
100%.
and I
It's
mean,
yeah,
like, dog, it's so funny, by like how football is developing, but like Barcelona have argument for being the best side in the world to go on to win this treble. And the two players playing at the base of their midfield is Frankie De Jong and Pedri. There
Yeah.
is not no DMs in it all. I mean, like Frankie has been the biggest criticism of him over the years is that he has not developed into being this six, you
Yeah.
know. But with this double pivot system, it has brought out the best in each one of them. And as you said, credit to Flick. Cool.
Yeah.
Moving on. I guess the team that Barca fighted for the league title is Real Madrid, who did keep hope alive this weekend. But first off, we're going to talk about the side that did progress to the semi-final. The first time that they have done so since 2008, and in my watching lifetime, is Arsenal. And Pat's are going to go. Actually, Salik, I'll go to you first for this because I let Pat talk a lot about Barca just now, right? It does feel like this has been a coming of age moment for Arsenal and Arteta. And as much as it might be through your teeth, what do you have to say about them getting past Real Madrid?
Yes, I'm so happy that y'all got through the tie. Yeah. No, but I mean seriously, and you know how critical I am of Arsenal and Arteta and whatever. But bro, let me tell you that honestly, I was so impressed throughout the entire tie. I saw some of the best performances I've seen from Arsenal players in a long time.
I
Um,
pause in there real fast. Don't go into individuals. I have
I
all the
know,
individuals listed for you to talk about.
right, I know. I guess if we will get into that, but some of the performances, bro, just top of the line. I mean, if I wanted to spin it negatively, I could ask where have these performances been all season, but I'm not going to do that. And at the same time, I mean, on the flip side, I mean, there's so many questions. I can't wait to hear what angle you're going at for Real Madrid because there's so many things we could talk about. You could talk about the manager, you could talk about the system, you could talk about the players. I mean, there's so many things to talk about. But the one thing I could definitely say is that I think maybe out of all the ties, well, definitively all the ties, but this one was where the team going through, I firmly believe deserved to go through. Like,
Yeah.
like I was like, there's no dispute about it. At no point did I think Real was gonna win this tie from the first minute to the 180th minute. That was just how it was.
Yeah. And appreciate you saying those things. And I mean, like, I also think like so much of this tie was built on the fact that Israel Madrid and as the aura they have, and I said going into this that history is there for you to write it. Like Arsenal are not going to get experience at these stages unless they go out there and make it happen for themselves. Now they can sit back and say, we just knocked out the reigning European champions 5 goals to 1, winning at their stadium when they didn't even need to and put on the performance they did across both legs. And, even though, Madrid aren't performing at their supernatural best, what has Madrid relied on in a lot of these ties going forward is that Vinny and Mbappe and whoever else pulls off that individual ability to get them over the line in the moments that mattered. And yet, and nobody can really sit here and say that these players were wasteful or had a tons of moments, and it's really credit to the team for stifling them. Three players I'm gonna put up first before I talk about one is Rice, MLS, and QEO. I'm gonna let you guys choose who you guys want to talk about in those three and highlight the performances that they had across both legs. So Brandon,
Daniel, give
Pat,
you first pick. Daniel, I'll give
yeah,
you first pick.
Pat, you go in
Me,
first.
I'll go with Louis Skelly. He's been really impressive for me. Coming out of the academy, I had no idea who he was until he was this season. But yeah, I think he's the left back that Arsenal needs, really and truly. I hope that they don't even sign anybody. I mean, or if they go to sign someone, they need to go with that profile because the athleticism is what really stands out the
Yeah,
most to
boy.
me. Yeah, yeah. I mean, technically, he's also really good. He understands the game well for 18-year-old. I think he understands the game really, really well.
Yeah,
But now the physicality is I think uber important. He's not tall, but he's strong and he's quite fast. Yeah, and I think
yeah.
he understands defending space really well. So
Yeah. And I think
so
also
that
it's like
that
the
was yeah.
personality too, boy. Like, bro, this man, again, you rightfully said this now, but dog, I cannot completely understand how like non-Arsenal affiliated people would not know who he is, right? He just went and performed at the Wow, like it was nothing, you know? And it's not even again to say like he's doing this for a club as a customer at this stage. he would have been the most understandable if you went there and had any nerves of this type and stood up there muscling people like Jude Bellingham and Rudiger like it's nobody's business. You know, and it takes personality to do that. That is not just ability, that is not just athleticism, it's also belief in himself that, you know, yeah, bro, I belong on the stage. And I remember he did that interview recently where he said, like, he doesn't really feel phased by anything, that he believes in himself entirely, that this is the stage that he belongs at. Salik, I
Oh,
know
I'm
who you
glad you, I glad you give me a second pick because I'll make you talk about this person on purpose. I gotta pick Rice because from the start of the first prediction, I told you all that my biggest thing in this game was gonna be Jude versus Rice, and I mean, let me tell you, bro, like that man, he he put Jude through like parboiled, like fried, boiled, all kind of thing he put him through, bro.
Chazmati,
Let me tell
everything.
you, bro, he put him through everything. I mean, I wasn't here when y'all talked about it, but I heard y'all talk about it already. Amazing free kicks and just what you expect from a player of that caliber and that price tag. And
Yeah.
I can't sing enough of his praises. He was amazing, bro. It was almost like it, it was one of those games where you look at him differently. I feel like after that, people have an expectation of what he should be, and I think from now on, he's just gonna be cast in a different stratosphere now because that was a performance against. Well, on one hand, it was a makeshift midfield with Modric, which didn't work out for Real in the end. But in the second leg, it was even more difficult, and I think he had an even better performance
Once
minus the
again,
goals.
I
Yeah,
really did.
it was just a monstrous game, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing more I could say. He had a perfect two legs, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
He scored two goals. I can't remember, and I mean, I'm not gonna give it to you for Curio, but I just want to sing one player's praises before I give it to you. I have to say, bro, Marino has has turned me into a believer, bro. That man, I can't believe how good he's been. I can't believe how good y'all look with him up top. So again, I could spin it negatively, but I'm not going to. But bro, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Amazing performance from him as well. Two assists, two assists,
Yeah.
to kill the game.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I had QBR here, right? And the reasons for it should be understood, right? Lewis Kelly, Saliba, Timber, all deserve their praises for what they did. But Kyria, because he came in for what I believe is like the emotional captain of this team. You know, Gabriel embodies so much. You know, he was Atata's first real signing and has been along for the journey. And as Arsenal got better, he has gotten better. If I have to miss this tie, like I know that killed him. Like I remember it had pictures of him at the Emirates, and he just said down there looking salty that he wants to be there. He relishes those moments. And to come in for somebody that's such a big part of this project to play the way that he did it. I feel like the first leg, he was a little shaky at first, and then he got accustomed, and then he grew even more, and then started to perform, and then started to pass, and started to play. And by that point, going into the second leg, he was so comfortable. Bro, he is the one where he had Edric both went up in the air, and he just holding him calmly waited for the ball to fall back and header it back to the keeper. Just show like how confident he was at that moment, and all this time he has been underused, and to some extent is understandable because again, like he's behind one of the best centre backs in the world, but to come in with very little prep time to then go and play this performance, like he could now say, "Hey, yeah, bro, I locked up Mbappe and them men, And it's not like to say he was a passion in this time. He was very much on it. The last person I wanted to highlight is Bukayo Saka. And the reason is that, yes, he did miss a penalty. Yes, he should never have been. But honest opinion is that I really think he missed that penalty. As in that he intended to Paneka it, but not like that, dog. He do something wrong there because I never see somebody trying to sideways a Paneka. I really think that he missed it. But besides that, even that adds to how I feel right now in the sense like another thing that has embodied this Arsenal team is not letting setbacks affect how you move forward. And he missed the pen. He obviously was not fully match fit yet in the first leg, but he still was the one that forced the issue, tried to make the difference. Won the free kicks that we actually scored from. That is not a real assist. That really matter. He create chances, nothing come of it. He say, okay, cool. Them things don't matter. second leg come now, tormented them on their right side. Was a constant out ball. And I think like the two things that I think people find hard to value with Saka, that I value a lot, and is a big reason why I believe that he's one of the best in the world, is one, his intelligence, that he always makes the right decision when he's on the ball, except for that penalty, but always makes the right decision on the ball, always knows when to pass, when to hold up, when to flick off, when to dribble, when to shoot. And also his mentality and resilience to these moments are always growing to them. You know, I just always tell Olia that he has never let me down. And it's not because that he hasn't missed shots or he hasn't scored goals that he should be doing better with, but it's because of mentally how he goes out there. And he always goes out there to try and lead this team and never shirks from the moment, you know. And examples of like he still takes pens despite the ones that he missed also shows like how like he doesn't want to shy away from these things. He knows that he should be front and center and takes these things. And I think another thing that has really come to the fore in these ties too, that despite him not being match fit, is bro how physically competitive that he is. Like these players just bounce off of him, you know. And like part of why like people just watch him and be like, why is it so hard to get the ball off this guy? It's because he's so strong. And like he waits for somebody to come make contact, then he rides one and then get past the next one. And eventually he did score in this tie. He scored in the Bernabeu chipping Courtois. And on the field with Mbappe, with Rodrigo, with Vinicius, he was the attacker along with Martinelli, who does deserve praise as well, who did stand tall across these two legs. And the last thing I have here on the Arsenal side is open question. Is Arsenal's style suited for the Champions League, for the at least for the remaining teams, the way that they play?
Okay, here's my take on that. Right, that that teams like Arsenal. Let's just talk about Arsenal then. I think Arsenal does well in Europe because so in the Prem, they've been playing these teams for, in my opinion, about 3 seasons straight of basically the same tactics. I haven't seen, you know, anything of note that changed tactically for Arsenal over the last 3 seasons from the moment that Arteta implemented and then up till now, right? However, in Europe, these teams don't really get the luxury of playing Arsenal, you know, 2, sometimes 3, 4 times, depending on how, you know, domestic cups and stuff go per season. For a lot of these teams, like Madrid, for example, this was the first time playing them. This was the first time playing this team. Okay, let's just put it like that. This is the first time Madrid played that team. So it's really hard to play against Arsenal if it's the first time that I played against them. I think that they are not easy, but I think you could figure them out after playing a couple of times. And the Prem, I think, has shown that. But I talked about this, you know, a while ago, maybe last year even. But for teams like Madrid and all the other teams that they play in Europe, there's a reason why they just slap up all these teams in Europe. You could even go back to the group stage portion, and they were winning by some really large margins. And I really think it's just down to teams aren't familiar with how Arsenal play. And remember too, Arsenal doesn't have, at least recently, doesn't have a rich history of playing in the Champions League. So it's like newcomers, but highly competitive newcomers. It's really difficult to adjust to that. And I think personally that's what it is. I don't think it's tactical or whatever. Arsenal are a well coached team, and they are a really good team, really good players, highly talented players, really good coach. They are a very good team that other teams have not played against yet. So to me, it makes perfect sense for them to win by such, you know, dominating margins against other large clubs.
Yeah, well said, Brandon.
No, I totally agree with him, bro. I mean, but to go on and the same line of thought that he's thinking about, unfortunately, you all have played PSG already for the season. So, I mean, if if there's anything to go by. I mean, that might be advantage for PSG because they've actually played you all already and they've lost. So I mean, they could only go up from there, right? Like so. I mean, looking at from that perspective, yeah. But I don't think that y'all are suited for the Champions League. I don't know if that's a word, but what I did notice for the entire Champions League campaign with Arsenal, because y'all finished what third in the group
Yeah.
stage. Yeah, I mean, I have seen y'all get up for these games. Like y'all don't get up for like y'all aren't pumped for some of the league games as you are for Champions League games. And I mean that credit to y'all. I mean, like that's the if it's one game you need to be pumped up for, it'll have to be a Champions League game. And in
Yeah.
that respect, maybe you are because I mean all your best performances of the season have come in the Champions League as well. So I don't know if it's just that you're performing better this season. I don't know if it really has to do with if the team is set up to be better in Champions League. But the truth is that you all have looked better in Champions League this season.
I mean, for me, what it really more comes down to is that like 90% of the teams that you're gonna play in the Champions League aren't going to like sit in a block, try to become back and try and get out here. Most of these teams want to try and be front footed, right? The one team that tried to be a little bit like that was probably Madrid, and they did get broken open in the end because that's just not their strength. But when we look at we played PSG, we played Monaco, we played PSV. And the remaining sides are attack minded. That when attack minded sides play Arsenal, that they usually lose, and that has been the trend over the last few years, even in the league and stuff. Which is why I think the Big Six record is so healthy, is because that when these bigger sides play, they have this onus on them to not just sit back and defend, but to come out. And when these teams come out, I think Arsenal are the best in Europe right now, if not one of the best over the last few years, at playing through presses, at bypassing teams' press and building through lines, playing under pressure. And then now that opens up a lot of space, as well as being really good at pressing from the front. And I think that does help in these bigger ties. I think, where Arsenal downfall has come this season is largely just dealing with teams that sit in lower blocks. And the lack of creativity has come to the fore with the side. And yes, a lot of that has to do with individual personnel being out and out of form. But it also does have to do with like some tactical things should happen, and that's stuff that needs to be reopened next season. But I mean, with the exception of possibly Inter Milan, which Arsenal did play this season and did create way more chances against them, but they might be the exception. PSG, and if you get past them, Barca, our sides are going to play on the front foot. And I do think that those sides, their strengths are stuff that Arsenal are probably better equipped than anybody else in Europe to try and nullify and see if they can get past them. So, yeah. If you all have anything else to add, if not, we could go into the Real Madrid section of this and see where that lands us. Yeah, cool, great. So obviously Real did not go through here, and they have been falling apart. If I am going to give you all one guess each, write it down, put it on your phone. I don't know, keep the number in your mind. How many clean sheets do you all think Real Madrid kept in the Champions League this season? For
This season.
reference, they've had 14 games in the Champions League this season. 1-4.
Okay.
How many in 14 games clean sheets do you think Real Madrid have kept? Ten
Okay.
seconds.
Yeah, I'll put it down.
Yeah, I think I have it too.
5, 4, 3, 2. Cool. Nice. Patrick, what was your answer?
I guess 4.
4. Brandon, how many
I
clean sheets do you think they get?
I guess in one.
The correct answer is indeed 1 clean sheet in
Nice.
14 games. They've
Big up
conceded
them.
on 13 occasions, conceding first in 9 of those. And that's to tell you how they have been
Who was the
going.
clean sheet, John?
I want to say Salzburg, yeah? But I don't double check now. Thanks, eh?
Sorry, I thought you were I thought you
No,
were
it's
checking.
okay. It's okay. But yeah, they have been really leaky in the defense. And I mean, like, this is obviously so many things that we need to talk about. So let me just get straight into it, right? While I'm checking on this. Brandon, one of the biggest things that it seems like between last season and this season is a complete lack of experience, not just at this level, but in general and leadership in this team. Obviously, they lost Kroos. Mbappe was the only incoming, and Carvajal has been out injured. Do you think that this is a major contributing factor as to why this season has dissipated the way that it has.
Yeah, bro. I feel like people not gonna agree with me on this, but I truly believe, bro, that Carvajal and Cruz's impact on the team is evident from the season. Like people, I know people don't think Carvajal. I even thought Carvajal was washed. Not maybe not washed, maybe over it or past it a little bit. But there is no denying that the what he brings to the team, and it also his presence also allows for other players to flourish in the team as well. I know Valverde had a great time at right back this season, but if Carvajal was playing and you allowed him to play into the midfield, I think Real would have been in a better stead as well. And the other thing is, bro, that Cruz is one of the best, is one of the greatest midfielders of all time. And when you lose that and you don't have something like immediately up next, it is going to be very difficult to think. I think like they had no control over a lot of their games. I mean, I was looking at a statistic similar to what you looked at. I think I think they won 5 games and lost 7 of them, or some ridiculous statistic
Yeah.
like that. And
Mhm.
it's like that is not the mark of great Real Madrid teams. They have always
Mhm.
had control. They've always been able to move forward from it. And I mean, it's not a slight on any of the players that they have right now. It's just that it's not a balanced team, and there's no. I don't think there are what's the word I'm looking for? There are specified rules for each of the new players. So I don't think Camavinga has a specified role. I don't think Chouameni has a specified role. I don't think Valverde has a specified role. They're still relying on Modric, which is there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's Modric. He's very much older now. And I don't know,
Mhm.
boy. I mean, like we talked about this earlier in the season too, and like we talked about stacking talent and how the stacking talent is working against them right now because they don't have a ready replacement for some of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah.
It's a very crazy situation to be in, but I also don't envy them, and I'm not feeling sorry for them either. It's Real Madrid, so I could only
Yeah.
feel so bad for them at once. But
Exactly.
yeah, bro, I think that Cruz and Carvajal have been huge misses, huge, extremely big misses throughout the season. They've had like players in and out, but it just didn't work out for them this season at all. A terrible season on the whole.
For what it's worth, the clean sheet was away to Brest. Salzburg
I
did
knew it.
score
I
them.
knew it. I knew it.
Um, Patsy, have anything to add on Cruz and Carvajal being the big misses for them this season compared to the last?
No, I agree with I agree with everything that Brandon said. And then maybe another big miss for them this season might be like on a technical level would be like the Vinicius Mbappe thing just not working because that's a kind of a miss in itself too. I don't know what has happened to these
Yeah.
two.
No, no. So that is part of the agenda as well, is to talk about that because, obviously they went last year from being double winners. They won the league, they won the Champions League last year, and the system was very simple. It was 4-4-2 straight up the line, four midfielders started in midfield. Jude started at the top of that midfield, was almost striker at times, but it felt more like Rodrigo and Vinicius played like split strikers. A year went by, we are now in the era of Mbappe playing, Carvajal, sorry, Carlo, from what we are told by Real Madrid fans, is more on the instruction that you can't go and sideline Rodrigo now to fit in Mbappe. And so now he is forcing the four of them to start together. There's no more 4-3 system, but when you actually watch them stand up on the field, it doesn't actually look like that. And it has all fallen apart. And so, why is it that and again, open question, both of you, but why is it that Mbappe coming in has not worked the way that it should have? Because like this isn't FIFA, right? You don't just stick in, Mbappe is trying, you set him on advance forward plus, and you try your best there that way. It hasn't worked. Why
Yeah.
hasn't it worked?
Maybe he's not a striker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe he don't have the
You can't
lengthy
give me short
characteristics.
answers. I need you to
He don't have the
say
length. He don't have the
something.
lengthy body type, bro. That was going on there.
That is it. That
Yeah.
is it. That is it.
No,
That is
but
it.
I mean, I want to agree with Daniel and also say that this is another problem that Real Madrid also had. Like they have again. This is going back to the same point, right? They have not. gotten a proper Benzema replacement, right? And the Benzema replacement is not Mbappe. I mean, we can all agree on that. But I mean, I just want to ask Daniel something too, because I mean, there's from a coaching perspective, right? Like, like I don't know if you saw it, Daniel, but there was a time where um Mbappe was playing left mid and Vinicius was playing left wing. It was very funny. It was almost like a FIFA. I moved this player all the way here to play like on
Yeah.
one side. It was real funny, and I don't know how do you move past that? Like because Mbappe is natural. I'm sure his natural instinct is to go to the left. I'm sure Vinicius is as well. Rodrigo is a little more accustomed to the right, I guess. But I mean,
Yeah.
ideally, he would also like to be on the left. But how you dealing with something like that? Like, and it's so much big egos as well. How you getting past that?
I'm not looking to get past that at all. I want to lean into it. If that's what if that's what they no, I'm dead ass. If that's what they if that's what they see themselves as liking to operate in that space. And it's true, Mbappe has played his best football off the left, so has Vinicius. Then okay, then I'm moving away from positional play and I'm leaning heavy into relationalism. And we will be positional in the defensive third. We'll be positional in the build. But then when we get to from like I want to say from the center circle that's in the opposing half. Okay, from there I go in full relational principles, which basically means anybody could be anywhere they want, and just play. We go based
But
off of relationalism.
now I'm not saying that Carlo hasn't tried that, right? Well, I
He
can't say
hasn't.
that he has,
He hasn't.
but
He
because
hasn't.
it hasn't worked, right? But
No,
like,
he hasn't tried it. Madrid has remained positional. Positional doesn't mean that Mbappe is locked to striker and Vinicius is locked to left wing or whatever. But positional means that the the main positions that you expect in the attacking third are filled. So positional, like just because there's rotation within the thing doesn't mean it's not positional system.
no,
You know
I
what I
was
mean?
going
So
to say
Madrid
there
rotate a lot,
hasn't
but
really been rotation, enough rotation. It's not like to say like one does go left wing and then the other one does filling in strike. Like when the
Jude
chips go
does.
down, and well,
Yeah,
I was
I
more
would
for like
I would agree with that
Vinny
though.
and
Yeah.
with what?
No, I like how it just look kind of like is be like the two of them here, and then Jude does fill up here, and then Rodrigo does end up on the right. So he's end up with two men
Yeah,
on the left, just Jude in the middle, and Rodrigo on the right. But I mean, like I don't
yeah,
know, boy. To me, that is such a weird concept on the whole.
No, but
yeah.
then
And I
for
mean,
me,
like,
just
mhm.
don't go positional like that. Bring Jude over to the left too. Bring
Yeah,
Rodrigo
yeah,
over
yeah.
to
I
the
understand
left
what you mean.
even.
Yeah,
And let's just tiki taka out of there and just these are intelligent players. You can't tell me they can't exploit space. Spaces are going to. I know what's crazy about what the reason why relationalism could work. Could I'm saying could it because we don't really see it on the biggest stages, right? But the reason why it could work, especially in the final third, is because defensively, you're taught to defend zones and spaces, correct? So
Yeah, yeah,
if I'm giving a wild example now, if Rodrigo decided he's gonna run from the right side over to the left side, okay, do you think that the left back is going to track him all the way? It's not going to happen. So there's going to be a numerical advantage on that side now. Yeah? And then if someone else does that too, they're not going to be tracked. So there's going to be numerical superiority on, let's say, the left side, because that's probably going to make the most sense for Madrid. And at the end of the day, is a lot of attacking is about numbers game. And if you could make a superiority, you should be on for a good attack.
So then the question then rises then like, is it then that Carlo had to go then?
Why?
well,
Do you think that he will do that then?
Why not?
I
You
don't I
see,
don't think I don't think he will because I don't think he can. If I've been honest with you, bro, I think this season has proved like a lot of what Real fans have been saying for a few years now. Like they say Carlos past it, and he not fresh with the system anymore, or he not working out. I think this season it's looked stale. And I think they definitely need somebody who has a different approach. I don't think it's to put them in specific positions, but just a manager who has something new to offer. Because whatever it is that he's done this season, it just hasn't worked. It hasn't worked consistently enough for them to be You know, they could still win the league and whatever, but this Champions League run has been very poor, and
Yeah.
they've been battered by a lot of sides too. Eh? Like,
Yep.
what was the game they lost? Was it 4-0 they lost this season? They lost 4-0 to
Probably
somebody.
to
Game we didn't.
Barca.
Yeah, no, we didn't cover a game
No,
in the
in
Champions
Champions
League,
League.
and we said forget forget Madrid and whatever, and they lost. I can't remember who it was that they
It was,
lost
well,
to.
they did lose to Lille, and it was 3-1. They lost to
Right,
Lille.
that
I
was it. Was
remember
right.
that
I think it
one.
was Lille, right? And then I think Liverpool beat them as well. Y'all
Yeah.
pasted them. So I mean, I think they need something fresh. And to go off what Daniel was saying, it had to be a manager who is willing to allow those players to exist
Yeah.
in some form of way, and relationism would be a good way to do that. But
Yeah.
the alternative to that is that one of them had to go, and I feel we all know which one of
Well,
them will be the one
we
to go.
we opening that Pandora box just now, right? But because what I was going to say is that as much as we could sit here and say like, Carlo is an experienced coach. Carlo is literally won the Champions League more than anybody else, more than any other coach. And it's for good reason, right? He's fantastic. He's one of the best coaches of all time. Time before too. This brother old, right? But like when these guys show you who they are, there's to some point that they won't evolve anymore, or go beyond what they understand. I mean, like I think we see some of that with Jose too, Pepper as well in his own way. That like to go into dealing up with more relational side of coaching, and then that adds another tactical layer to his belt. I think at this stage in his career, he just isn't going to do that. I think like he has always shown that he is somebody, and this is why like Real fans have been saying that the way that they have been playing, lining up this season seems to be more instruction from above. Is that he has always been somebody that would have watched the players he has and then make a system around them to try and make it work. But it just constantly has feel like everybody has tried to be shoehorned in this lineup. And by doing so is why we have these side problems now. I know there's somebody who would ask, but John, if you're saying it's so bad, why is it that they still made it to the Champions League quarterfinals? They in a title race, they in the Copa del Rey. It's because, bro, at the end of the day, they have exceptionally talented players. And we've seen time and time again this year that those players have shown the ability to pull it off once in a while. But we don't watch how much time they lost in the Champions League this year. We don't watch how they have not taken advantage of when Barca has slipped up. We also watch that even in the wins that they've had domestically, when it constantly takes screamers and takes somebody running 12 million men and something like that, players aren't actually being platformed to do well. I mean, obviously, you want players who are capable of doing that. I would love to have players capable of doing that week in, week out. But like, it's unrealistic to expect that all the time. And then the other side of someone that I asked you before we open up the can of worms of if Vinicius should be sold, is that is there also an ego thing here that could be at play? Because at the end of the day, we have Vinicius who's been very vocal about the fact that he should be winning Ballon d'Ors, and now Mbappe is also in the side. He will probably feel the same way. And then even in the setup, even if we talk about relationism where they do interchange, both of them should be getting goals and assists. Both of them should be shining. One is going to feel like they should be the cornerstone of this team more than the other. And I feel like whether that has to be addressed in some form, or else it's going to rate head at the worst possible time for them. What do you all think? Brandon, go first this time now.
Well, I didn't think it was gonna say Vinicius should be sold. That one kind of hit him with a six right now. But I don't know if there is a ego thing there, bro, because I've always believed that good players can play with good players, and great players can play with great players. But I do think there is something that needs to change. There, I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a unique formation that they might have to play, or if it is that one of them has to go. I mean, I don't. I could definitely see a scenario where Rodrigo leaves and goes to a big
Mm-hmm.
club outside of Spain. I could
Mm-hmm.
definitely see that happen, like 100% see that happening. But I don't think there's an ego thing. I think Mbappe has played with a lot of big players before in his career. Um, not to a lot of success, might I add. Um, but I think Vinny has done that as well, and I think it's just a matter of time before the two of them click. But it's just really a matter of will we see Mbappe and Vinicius, or Mbappe, Vinicius, and Rodrigo? I think that is the ultimate question, because that once we get the answer to that, then we could know how to proceed from there.
Yeah, I do think that is a problem. I think for me, where it comes from is like, I think given everything that has transpired at PSG, I don't think, like, ultimately, somebody ends up being the face of the team. whether you like it or not. That just always happens. That's why Neymar ended up leaving. Benzema knew that and was willing to submit to being behind Bale and Ronaldo. Look how much success it got him. Neymar ran from wanting to be cast as the sidekick to Messi and ultimately never won the Champions League again. All this to say is like somebody ends up being the face of the team. I think Mbappe has already gone through that stage of having to fight for the limelight with other players, and he may not want to do that again. And Vinny now, even though like he shined along Benzema, I think like as you rightly said, Mbappe is not Benzema. And that's two players in Benzema and Vinny whose styles of play mesh with one another to maximize both players. Whereas I do feel with the styles of both Vinny and Mbappe, somebody is going to end up suffering. And by suffering, I just mean like one is going to end up shining a lot less than the other for the sake of team success. And I do wonder, given the personal ambitions of both of them, if that is then plausible to maintain all those things. So, again, open.
Go ahead,
anyone
Napas.
to comment.
I think I have my thoughts because I just had a whole conversation about relationalism, but me personally, I don't even think that might be the way to go with Madrid.
All
I
right.
feel like the easiest solution is to just sell. I think if you just sell Vinicius, the whole thing could just open up easy. Cause then it could. And the reason for that is really only because the reason that I think Rodrigo is safe is because two reasons actually. One, he's probably the only out of them. He's probably the only one that could play on the right side. Mbappe hasn't done it in a long time. So, I feel like that ship kind of sailed. And then two, you'll make so much more money from selling Vinicius than you will from selling Rodrigo. That I think it just makes more sense to sell Vinicius. And they can't sell Mbappe because they just bought him. So he's off the table. But I feel like ultimately
He
Mbappe
came
needs to
for free.
Well, okay. Yeah, right.
For free.
Yeah. But I think Mbappe needs to be playing on the left just because they went a whole season with him as a striker. It didn't look good. We've seen him play as a striker for France. It doesn't really look good. We've seen him for PSG too, and in the Champions League it didn't look great. So they need to find a way to get him on the left side. And to me, instead of reinventing the wheel and all of that, I think the answer is literally in front of our face. There's a guy in his position right now. He's better than said player. Sell the guy that's not as good. Put the better one in that position. And just roll with it. Maybe use the money to buy a striker that suits the system, or a striker that could, blend Mbappe and Rodrigo together. And just go with that and just go simplify the system. I always say this for every club that's in trouble, because it was the same thing that I said for City. It was the same thing that I said for Liverpool previous seasons ago. Just simplify the system and go from there. Because Madrid are almost at the brink of a rebuild right now. So, yeah, go simple, 4-3-3, standard stuff, and just play.
I would like to ask
Brad.
both. I would like to ask both of you all a question. I would like both of you all to answer this question because
Okay.
all of you are hitting me for six right now. Because that's not what I thought we would be talking about.
Okay.
If
For what it's
let-
worth, when I said Salvini earlier, I always say that's tongue in cheek, but Patrick run with it.
yeah,
And I kind of do.
No, I didn't run with
Lean
it.
on that
That is
line of
what I
No, but-
believe needs to happen.
no,
Oh no! I fully understand, bro, and
Yeah.
I'm more in line with what you're thinking. I mean, me and you talk about this off camera like four
Right.
times at this point with Steph, and that is kind of where I think this can end up going, where somebody gonna have to go.
Same.
That's why I said in emphasis, because I didn't think in no world I think it's going to be Vinicius. So this is why I'm interested to ask this. Not so much that what happened to Real Madrid, but I look at it from Vinicius' point of view. If Vinicius was to leave, where do you all think he would go?
He can't go anywhere, which is why they're not going to sell him. So
Yeah.
I was saying what they should do. But what they are
No,
going
no,
to
but
do
no.
is keep both of them.
Let's explore it for a second. I just want to explore it. Where would he go?
So for me then, right? I agree that I don't think he's going to go, and for multiple reasons.
No,
One of
I
which is that-
get that. Forget that. We
No,
talking
no, no, no.
fantasy
Hear
here.
what I'm saying, right? It's also about I keep thinking about this in mind of Vinny objective. He's already won two UCLs, right? And he already knows that in order to win the Ballon d'Or, he has to win another one, right? And hopefully with other stuff, right? He wants to win UCL. He has to go somewhere to be the main man. He also is not going to go anywhere where anybody can afford him. So he has to go on a free. And I don't know how long from now he has to go on a free. Because the only place that I think that makes sense is Liverpool. He will go there, 100% be the main man. They do play to try and stretch teams in behind in the end. And, you know, when you look at how Salah gets to play on the counter and maximize going up one-on-one versus man and how he has flourished doing that. Like, Vinny could be used in a similar way, right? Not that he won't start other places, but in terms of go somewhere that has the pedigree, that has the platform for him to strive, that is expected for him to win, and that he will be the main man. Like, you see, like, you don't want to have these conversations with sounding disrespectful, right? But, like, so he can't go Syria for the start one. Bayern, maybe. He well, he could go Barca or what? I don't know how that can fly.
Let me tell you how. He could come to Barcelona and they go with Rafinha number 10, Yamal on one side, Vinicius on the other, whoever the striker is at 9.
But that's how I think he leaves Brandon. Is that is the only way he leaves. He had to go on a free because Real Madrid, and rightfully so, are going to charge like 200 plus million for him, and nobody in the world is going to pay that. Not because he's not worth it, but just nobody has. I don't think anybody has that money to pay for him outside of Saudi.
Okay. I wasn't thinking about it before. I mean, I could see him in an upper city, you know, to be honest with you. But I mean,
really?
Yeah.
Do you think Pep would, I mean, to be fair, Pep has signed like the Dokus and the Savinos and stuff recently.
Yeah, bro,
right?
and then they comparing Savinho and Doku to Vinicius. Hell
No,
yeah,
you're very right. So, yeah, actually, that alone made me change my perspective. Yeah, no, he could go City. And to be fair, City has the money, you know? And I mean, like, Pep has used the fact that Doku is a 1v1 demon. Vinny is a 1v1 demon with him, brother.
But Vinny wants to score, though.
He will score, bro. Trust me.
He will score.
Don't get into positions. Like, he would score, but not as much.
I would send Foden the other way one time. Like, I wouldn't even think about it twice.
No, but what I'm saying is that the way Pep uses his wingers, Pep would have to change the system then.
Yeah, he would probably have to change the system, but it's my apprehension before the City. So I thought, like, regardless of status, Pep probably wouldn't have won that profile winger. But, like, now that I already think about it and think about the wingers that he signed recently, yeah, bro, he would take him. And yeah, he got to reinvent the system. But
bro, hold on. But wait, hold on, bro. Forget the profile. He's one of the best wingers in the world.
Yeah.
Like, why would Pep not want one of the best wingers in the world?
But yeah, so it's those two teams, you know, and one of them is that if he can't go far free. If he goes far free, I think Liverpool had to do everything in their power, though.
So let me just make sure I understand what it is we all saying here. Both of you all think that the proper solution to this is for Vinicius to go.
Mm-hmm.
For one of the two of them to go, and I don't think that given that Mbappe comes second.
You talking about between Rodrigo and Vinicius.
No, I think Rodrigo is more than okay being the sidekick, being the Aquaman to the Justice League. Cool.
He's their Pedro.
He tanning, bro. He doesn't, and like he's okay with that. He understands that. Vinny wants to be at the forefront of all this, bro. And for what it's worth, I do think that Mbappe is probably the better player between them, eh? But what I would say, up until Mbappe reached, Vinicius has scored or assisted against every single team that he has played against in the Champions League for Real Madrid. Not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but for 3 years running. 3 years running. And in that time, they won the Champions League twice, scoring in 2 finals. And I do think that he has some, with all his feelings for Brazil on the board, I am well aware of that, right? But he has some basis to say, like, yeah, well, hey, Real, I have repaid y'all in it. I should be the one that y'all are prioritizing in this setup. I have shown that I can provide return, which was my whole thought process with Mbappe going in the first place. Is that at the end of the day, both of them going to want to be used in similar ways, similar roles, similar setups. One is going to suffer, and all you're going to tell somebody who, for all his failures with Brazil, again, seeing this, But for somebody who has proven for 3 years running that he can carry all over the lines that you all want to go, and now we're here.
Could you only imagine if they sign Mbappe for free and then sell him back for like 100 million?
Excellent.
No,
That is
serious,
business, though. That is great business.
yeah, bro.
Great.
Buy him on a free and sell him for 100 million, yeah.
To Barcelona.
Anywhere,
That would
though.
be great.
Sell him for Barca for 80, bro. 80 million profit.
I say
But-
do it.
But yeah, bro, I just think like, you see, ego doesn't make it sound evil, and that is why like I doesn't want to use that word per se. But I think at the end of the day, these guys want to win Champions Leagues and rack up their repertoires, right? I'm not saying no, but at the end of the day, these fellas are vocal men about wanting to win the highest individual honors. And at the end of the day, when you're competing against men within your own team, somebody going and had to suffer. And if you know before, all you remember the days where we used to hear, yeah, boy, Mane and Salah don't like to pass to each other. Dog, is that same scenario kind of coming down the stretch? Because somebody is going to want to be the one that's getting the numbers. Because when the argument comes to, they want to have a stronger argument. As much as that is their brethren, they want to win with certain circumstances. Now, I do think that it can work, eh? I do think the two of them can work. I do think in probably like a split striker system again, and then Rodrigo has to leave, right? But even then, I still think like at some point that ego, that personal ambition and trump team ambition could come up again, and I think that's a dangerous thing to have within your squad. You know?
All right, let me ask one more question. So let's say they stay together for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
What percentage would you all give for Mbappe, Rodrigo, Vinicius front three to win a Champions League?
You see this guy bite me back in the butt, right? But my honest to God answer is 10%, dog.
Daniel?
Nah, bro. I was going like 60.
Okay, fair enough.
You
I was going to
know-
say 40.
Yeah.
I would say a solid 40.
You know why it's so low too, boy? Because at the same time, I am watching, like, okay, forget Arsenal, whatever, though. I'm watching what these other teams doing in Europe too, you know. And as much, bro, let me remember what Real Madrid was up until 2013, you know. They had all the talent, bro. They had talent, bro. Men went in there and did not succeed and had to leave. Because at the end of the day, when it is on that side that they aren't coherent, it didn't work in the end. Now. And so, like, if it is that you're saying that the three of them have to start together, I don't think it would. If it is that Perez is okay with Rodrigo becoming a bench player and a sub player, and he's okay with that, then yeah, I think it could work. But if the three of them had to start together, I think the imbalance plus personal ambition go prop up in ways again. You know?
I don't know. Because what if, right? Because,
Yeah.
Brandon, me, John, and another friend been talking about this Madrid thing for like weeks now. And I kept saying that it could work. Now, it sounds contradiction to what I'm saying here tonight, because what I'm saying tonight is that I think the easiest solution is to sell one of them, right? But I think that it could work to have those four big players in the same system, the Jude, Vinicius, Mbappe, Rodrigo, right? So, say for example, now, what if, okay, they signed a more defensive coach, okay, a more defensive manager, and he spent 400 mil on showing up the defense, and then spent the first couple months turning them into a defensively strong team. So let's say he bought Saliba, Gabriel, Hakimi, and I don't know, Theo Hernandez, right? And then they kept Courtois, and then they have too many, over there. Just saying, for example. Then I could more than see if Madrid were a team to actually be defensively solid and then play on the counter, I could more than see that front three wrecking havoc in Europe. And then you have like the Jude and Valverde on both ends. I don't see what's wrong with that, me personally. Do you all see something wrong with that? Because just pure counters.
I think the next problem that props up is, like, again, there is no Kroos. There'll never be an next Kroos ever, probably in our lives, right? But the lack of control in that side would prop up again for me now. And then now they're going to end up in situations where, yes, I fully understand that there are coaches out there that might be tactically more equipped to deal with the squad than Carlo is at this stage in his career. But like we just came out of this Real Arsenal tie, you know. What did they do to try and get a goal back when they knew that they were 3 goals down? What did we see? We end up seeing that midfield behind them is just because then now we started to open the can to what is also behind our front three. Jude, Valverde, they are must starters, must continue to start. Nobody in that midfield is really there to help link play, build up, be a conduit between the front, the midfield, and the attack, right? And when you couple that with a lack of control and presence, somebody who wants to dictate play from deep, you can't end up in this position where these midfielders getting the ball, them attackers waiting up there, they gonna end up spamming crosses in the box or give the ball out wide, hope somebody can dribble. But like, I
Or
think
they
like
play on the counter.
systematically. But like they won't get to play on the counter all the time though. You know?
Maybe not in the league, but in the Champions League they will. And all they seem to care about is winning the Champions League.
This is another interesting junction, because I think the problem is that they need a striker, and then that destroys the formation as well. Because then who do you drop?
Yeah.
Because
No, but then
And
you have
guys,
to, it goes back to the easy solution, right, Brandon? If you
no, no,
sell
no, no.
someone
But no,
and buy a
I'm
striker,
saying let's be in a realm where they don't sell either any of the three, and they buy a striker. So the three of
cool.
them drop back behind the striker. Then who do you drop?
Or
And who
Bellingham, you would
plays?
have to, right? You would have to drop Bellingham. If we go in like a 4 2
So,
3
or
1
would you
type
play
thing.
Valverde and Bellingham as a two
No.
behind the three? Well, that's what I'm saying. So like where like I feel like Real have too many, like so many questions, because you say a defense, right? And then John says a midfield, and then I say a striker. Like, it's just, do they need a
Oh, no,
whole
no, no.
rebuild?
I wasn't saying they needed to buy a defense. I was
No,
just
but I take
proposing
your
a
point on what you
solution.
were saying, that if they shore up the defense, and a manager was to play more defensively, right?
Yeah.
That is a solution.
It
Like
is. Yeah.
that is a solution. John also gave a good solution, and I think that
Yeah.
a striker would also solve a good bit of their problems
I
from
think so
just
too.
a
I do.
forward perspective. But
Yeah.
what is it? Where is the solution? What is it? Or are all of them solutions? And like, are we looking at are we really looking at the most valuable team in the world requiring a rebuild? That's kind of crazy.
I
and I
don't think
mean
they
like at the
require
end of
it,
the
though.
day, no, but maybe they do in some sense because he's just hear me out, right? It's that at the end of the day, what's one of the most famous sayings in football, right? Goals does hide sins, right? And the thing is that this
I've
side
never heard
has
that
scored.
saying in my life. And I'm 27.
You can be
Yeah,
28 just now too.
he
But
living in the
I know,
states
right?
too long. They don't say that over there.
my
Oh,
my
okay.
point is though is that at the end of the day, like we saw this side like do so many things over the years
The
in
most
front of goal
famous.
that like that it hides the shortcomings that they have behind them, right? It hides when they defensively are poor. Like dog, I hate it. They were also poor versus City, right? They get shredded
They were.
to pieces against Atletico, right? But when teams don't take advantage or they don't do this or they get through, we don't talk about those things, right? And over the years now, last year, nobody really thought that Madrid side was one for the ages, in it. But what we saw was that they scored in the most important moments. And we all watched the final last year. Dortmund had a bag of chances and then made the most of it, right? And so, but what happens is that when they do win in the end, we don't bother to talk about the faults. There have been these faults that probably have been that not probably they have been existing for a while now. But just like with City, when you're winning all the time, nobody wants to stop and talk about the shortcomings that have been propping up while you're still winning. And then now when you stop winning, is now when you see all these things pile up behind you, you're like, but wait now, where all this was all the time? But it was just a case of like all the time we was winning and we was getting by enough, and so nobody, was really saying anything. And so like these defensive issues, this midfield issue, like bro, we say this all the time. I think Asensio is good. I don't think that he is elite. This right back and left back thing we hearing for the longest while. How long we hearing it? Kroos needed our replacement. They didn't even bring in anybody. All these things have been built in. We now talk about how Benzema never get replaced. And I know we talk about this long now, and I now mentioned something we talked about at the start of this half-hour segment, right? But that is just to show how we're going to end up coming back in a circle where it's a lot of things that we're piling up. And we're afraid to say it's a lot of things because it's Real Madrid. It's because it's 15 UCLs. It's because they win a UCL just last year. No possible way to have all these issues. But issues are there even when you're winning. It's just you try to adjust them before the next time you go again. But if you don't, they pop up. And here we are talking about they popping up. We all can probably agree that a striker does help. Like, okay, easy solution. Somebody gets sold, right? And if somebody does get sold, what they can do? Not buy a like for one of them men. You can buy a completely different profile. When we talk about midfield, it's not for any existing profiles in it. It was somebody completely different. And same thing in defense. And so that probably we're looking at is that they have to be rebuilding in each area of the field. And to be fair, I kind of am expecting one of them 150, $200 million windows from Real coming up because I do think they need it. I do think they need it.
Well, we will see. I hope that the downfall continues and Barcelona get easy leagues, and that Atleti somehow end up in a downfall also, and the whole league fall apart except Barcelona.
The last thing that I had on the docket here is that is this Madrid side indicative of lack of true world class players in the world right now? And the
What
reason
is
that I
a
say
true
that,
world class player?
I mean, in terms of, when we, again, Messi, Ronaldo era, whatever, but they set a really high bar for what we grew up on. In terms of expected a certain level of consistency across many, many years. And I mean, now we are seeing cases of where somebody can pop up one year, fall off the next year, pop up this year, fall off the next year, as well as a lack of character in players in terms of like, when we compare this Real Madrid compared to the Real Madrid of the years gone by, the Real Madrid had made all these comebacks and things. They wasn't busy on their phone remontada for a whole week and talk about how they can close the stadium and all this rah. It was post game. Ronaldo go and talk. Yeah, well, we have the Sakalai. We know what we need to do. And it's because they trusted themselves to go out and do it. Right? But how many players in the world right now do we really see that sense of character in it now, boy? And if we could all agree that Real Madrid have the best players in the world, Finney is probably the best like out and out winger on that side. Mbappe could be the best out and out player outright. But we are seeing each other's shortcomings, and is it that compared to those years ago, we talk about regression all the time, regression to the mean, that there is not that standard of player anymore. And what we judged as world class before, it that same caliber just isn't existing now. And so that is the like in a debate, they tell you argue for and against, and they gave the statement. That is the statement then. Is it that right now that the caliber of world class players isn't the same as yesteryear, of 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it is?
Oh, yeah, yeah, because previously we just came from the whole Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, Benzema, Suarez, like players who was no problem to go 5-6 seasons in a row, gunning,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe we haven't got another super consistent group, but the group is really young though. In all fairness, the group of guys coming up right now, they are really young, so maybe asking for that level of consistency is a little harsh. And maybe our generation got skipped.
Well, is that the other side of this then? That the reason that there is this level of expectation is because of a failed generation then?
Yeah, maybe our generation got skipped. But the next
Because I mean, like, when we look at the players that should have been at the forefront now, right? And I mean, like, dog, I don't even like the man per se, but I have really gotten on board with, like, that Haaland is so overly criticized. Like, we know his limitations and whatever those things are, but he's so overly criticized, bro. Like, this man is an output machine that even compared to the greats, he is record books wise is going to go down next to them, Like, it's almost inevitable record books wise. And he is so overhated because he may not be the absolute perfect thing. And all that is to say is that, like,
no, he's not the. It's not that he's not the absolute perfect thing. It's that he's so far from it. He could do one thing. It happens to be a very important thing, but that's it. He's like so anti what I believe a footballer needs to be. And I think there are many versions of successful footballers, but this man just lacks so much. Bro, you can't tell me a game that Haaland, you can't tell me a day that Haaland had a good game and he didn't score. He has no way of affecting the game unless he scores.
Yeah,
Well,
but
well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that in itself is an unrealistic expectation.
To
Like,
affect the game without scoring.
yeah, because if you're saying he don't impact the game without scoring, he doing the hardest thing in the game, and he is it's not like he doesn't score often. He score like nearly every game. So I mean, if you want to say like 8 out of 10 games he scored, and the 2 games he didn't play well because he didn't score. I mean, yeah, fine. But I mean, it's more like I would focus on the 8 games I did score, and he probably did play well
Not
than
100%.
yeah.
But he doesn't score 8 out of 10 games, though. He might score goals to show that he scores 8 out of 10 games. But he doesn't
then now
really
we get
score
into
8
the
out of 10.
argument of like if he is getting the correct amount of service
He
in
is.
8.
He is 100% getting service. I look at his games. He's getting service and the man does just miss sometimes. I don't understand.
But
It's so weird. He would score
I was going to
13
say
goals
something
in the
else
first
though.
5 games and then
He
go the
would
next 5 games probably scoring 0.
missing.
So in the end, it
Yeah.
bottom out, 10 games played,
No,
13
that's
goals.
fair.
Nice.
What I was going to say though is that right here we are criticizing him, right? He is, and he
Yeah.
already break
Well,
like
I
the
am.
probably goal scored record in a season, right? All this is to say, he should not be at the forefront the way that he is now. But the problem is that the era of Lukaku and Morata and Kane and whoever else falls in that category has failed to live
Yeah,
up to
true.
expectations
They
one
didn't.
way or another. You
That's
know,
true.
like when I think about that age category, they're the only people that I think really have lived up per se, like especially during that period where they had to take the mantle was like KDB and Salah and thing. But like when you think about the players that should be between like now like 28 to 33, 34, like bro, like how much of those players you could see of that age and are currently like world class, especially world status,
Yeah.
or has
Maybe
been at
just
least up to
Kimmich.
last year. You know,
I
Commission
put
out to
Kimmich
the
in
30,
there.
right? So right, he's somebody who was up there, right?
Yeah,
But
you could
like,
probably even put
is he,
Griezmann in there, and he didn't win a Champions League.
bro? He still don't even
Yeah.
have a league title to his name.
Yeah,
You know, and he get his big move and it didn't work out. And so that's my point. That is like there's this whole era that it feels like that is missing. And the side product of that is like we're saying, right? Is that these fellas, before they turn 24 or 25, we ask them to have that consistency of people that age. And as much as Mbappe debuted at whatever age and Yamal, whatever, bro, I fully expect that at some point Yamal might have a season where like his G might drop off a little bit. And it's completely find out Messi was not the complete product at 17, 18 years old. Bro, even last season, Patrick, I remember we used to talk about it, and like we used to talk and say that Yamal, you could clearly see how talented he is, but he is playing like a 16-year-old should be playing, and that's completely
Yeah.
fine. And that's fine. And that's fine. But as we are saying here, they have a generation that gone. And now the end result is like in general, I do feel like footballers can't be overly criticized. Like no. Because I have argued this before with y'all. And sometimes people agree with me, sometimes don't. I think, for an example, right, the campaign that Jude had last year, right? I think if he had that exact same campaign in the early 2000s, bro, dog, people would have been worshipping that campaign, you know? That man went first year in Real Madrid, win La Liga, win Champions League, win La Liga Player of the Year, score winners in both Clásicos, most goals by Real Madrid midfielder in how much anywhere years, whatever, win Euros finals, score winners for England anyway there. And people still hated it, even if you didn't think it was a Ballon d'Or worthy winning campaign. People still hated it. And people went into the season trying to pull him down after that. And it's like, what are we really doing here, boy? And it does feel like a lot of arguments in footballers end up being point scoring more than anything else. Trying to pull on who you like against who you don't like.
Yeah.
could I offer a counter argument to
Sure.
what you're saying though? Like
Yeah.
I understand what you are saying, and I do agree that there is a lot of extremism in football when it comes to these things. However, I think like expectation is a huge thing in football, right?
Correct.
And players themselves create their own expectation. And yes, because the initial question was about the Real Madrid team, right? And I think that this Real Madrid team, the problem is that they are kind of like the start of the what we would like to see the new era be. So anytime they don't succeed, we immediately going to tear them down. Like I don't view I don't view Rafinha the same way I view Vinicius. So naturally, I think Vinicius will get more stick than a player like Rafinha or like Mbappe versus Rafinha or something like that. But the truth is that there are players who who aren't up and down, and we also don't look at that, because sometimes those players that are so consistent aren't the fashionable positions on the field. Like we I could tell you that Kimmich has been for the past 3 years one of the best midfielders in the world. And people will be like, yeah, but like what's his GA? And I'm like, yeah, bro, but I don't care about Kimmich's GA. Like you were talking
Yeah,
earlier
but let's
about
tell you
Pedri.
who studied the Bundesliga and thing. I wouldn't get
Yeah,
tell you.
exactly. No, but you were talking about Pedri. Pedri being one of the best players in the world. Like Rodri won the Ballon d'Or a little while ago. Like
Yeah.
like we talking about a different era, and if we the more we struggle to find to have a definitive best player in the world, or a crop of best players in the world, the criteria are just going to get worse and worse and worse, because we will have to split hairs, because
Yeah.
if you score 30 goals one season and then you score 19 goals the next season, people are going to be like, well, you didn't do as good as last season, whatever.
Yeah.
So it is unrealistic, but that's just the sphere we're in right now. We
No,
have to
and
look for like extreme criteria to judge
no,
players.
and the thing is, Brand, where I am landing though is that I do agree with you. Know. I kind of went extreme in where I was going just now, but the reality is, as you see, is that so whether you like it or not, though, these men are going to be asked to be the forefront of their side. And now, when we do think about it, though, Messi and Ronaldo, the two best players that we ever gonna see in life forever, in their formative years, them 19, 20, 21, 22. Well, obviously, Ronaldo had to move from Sporting to come to even United and stuff, right? But my point is, they weren't even like the senior men in their team. And I'm sure that did also help in their development. Messi obviously came into a side that had Dino, and even by the time he replaced Dino, it still had Messi, I still had Henry and Eto there, two seasoned winning pros, for him to play alongside. When Ronaldo went to Man United, Tevez was a seasoned pro, Berbatov was a seasoned pro at those points in time. And even if it wasn't just looking at the attack, you look at scores and this core of Rio and whoever else that they're so long winning. And there was that sense of leadership there now. And I think like what it is also showing too is that there might be just a lack of genuine leadership too with a lot of these players, because a lot of what we're talking about at Kroos and Carvajal, again being specific to Real, is that lack of leadership through these hard times, And it's easy to say, oh, well, we're going to these men for GA. But, like, it's not just always about getting the goal. It's about playing well. And who is getting you all to play well so you can get the GA? Who is getting the team together? Who is leading the team in that way? And that might be it. And leadership is something that obviously we see some players who like are natural leaders at young age, but like there's some leadership that only comes with maturity in the game over time. And that's also something this generation is being robbed of. Being asked to be leaders, maybe before that some of them are ready to be that.
Well,
And again,
I also think that, John, that's a very good point you bring up there, because I do think there's a lack of proper, I wouldn't say leaders is the word. I would prefer to use captains, because
yeah,
many
sure.
of the captains that I see across teams across the world, like you just be like, I don't know if I'd want that person to be my captain. Like, I'll be real honest with you, bro. If I was an Arsenal
I
fan,
agree. I agree.
if
I
I was
agree.
an
I
Arsenal
agree. I
fan,
agree.
I would be killing for Rice to get the captain's armband over Odegaard. Like
Yeah.
I could see it in many different teams across the world. I'm sure people have different opinions on the different teams and whatever. Like so I just feel like there's a huge lack of that, and that is what, like I say, Cruz and Carvajal brought that. But overall, there's not a lot of that around right now. Like, even
Yeah.
and that could be because the players that should be that are the lost generation that you're talking about, and they
Hmm.
have never lived up to it. So there are just other players who have taken it up, who probably aren't ready, or probably too early for them. It could be something that is a weird fairy in right now. Like a very weird one.
And like even like using the Odegaard and Rice thing is like I just think like when we talk about leadership, we don't want like again, but like just that entire performance versus Real Madrid, it
That's a
was
captain's
good.
performance.
It
That's a
was,
captain's
and again,
performance.
like don't strip away the two free kicks, so like strip away that just the performance, the whole fellas, we are doing this in it. Give me the ball, let's go do this kind of mentality. And again, that is why I do like Gabriel and Saka so much. Out these players who don't shy away from the moments, or these players who want it, like give me it, let's make this stuff happen. And you're right. We could be looking at a lack of that. And there's more than just, oh, give me the ball. But it's just general responsibility in the game. And it comes back to, Pat, I feel like in my rambling, a sideline here a little bit here.
No,
Sorry.
listen, go for it.
Well, it just feels like, with the increased responsibility on these younger players, like, they are being asked to be leaders maybe before that they are ready. But again, if it is that you all are the best players in the world, that comes with the expectation. Yes, the GA, yes, the performances, but also the responsibility in these moments too. You know, and something that is very funny and comes back to like world class players is like Salah signed an extension for 2 years, Van Dijk too, right? But like I asked both of you all, and I did it myself. If you could only sign one, nobody voted up Salah. And yet he's the one that ran up with all the goals and assists. And is it that we don't trust him to replicate this next season? Or why is it that like none of us said to go with him next year? That maybe are we feeling like a decline might be coming from him too, But like the reason that you do extend him is because he is, as we say, one of the few men of this generation that has actually stood up and performed. But the worry is that as we saw with Alexis and Orba and all these players in the past, like dog, when these men hit a wall and they fall off, they could fall off really badly,
True.
And I think that was my fear with Salah. Is I thought, if I'm not mistaken, well, I know these last few weeks he stopped really scoring and assists at the same rate, so I feel like the percentage dropped. But at some point, though, he was like 81% of their goals and assists this season, innit? Like, bro, that is...
Yeah, it's crazy.
I didn't even think Messi had a campaign with that much percentage, bro. Like, that is genuinely astronomical. And as if you can repeat it. Last thing here. I think we kind of covered everything I had there. I actually think that was such a lovely discussion. I wrote down a lot of timestamps. Hopefully I could do enough clips for all these things. But I mean, this last bit here, where we talk about responsibility and expectation, I know both of us did a lot of the talking. You have anything you want to add in there? Is that just the nature of the beast that these fellas are being asked from a young age to be stars, and if they're gonna be up there, this is just the expectation on them to be up that level?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I think it's never too young to be a star. Especially because in football, experience is very important, and some younger players already have a lot of experience over others, so they basically already adults in the game and seasoned in the game. So I think I'll always maintain that if you're going to be one of the top players in the world, then the demand's going to come with that, and age shouldn't really matter.
Fair. Alright, guys, this was really supposed to just be like Champions League stuff, but I guess we could just quick hit some things. Forest fall off last week. Like, these things are literally going to take less than a minute. So I'm gonna just ask all there, one or all there, right? Forest fall off last week's Pats. What you feel, and do you feel like if they still gonna make Champions League football?
Yeah, this one could be tough. I don't think they have the easiest games coming up either. So yeah, this one could be tough, especially since Newcastle looking really good, Villa competing, and then the top three might kind of be sealed there between Liverpool, Arsenal, and City gonna be in there, I think, for sure. So could be a tough one it would be good to see how that play out.
Chelsea, Brandon come back from behind to win again in a local derby, but the first one in the last weeks. Tyree George, Academy product, scored his first Premier League goal. Obviously, that's a really proud moment. But how are you feeling now about the top 5 race for Chelsea?
Well, I'm still not feeling very confident. And we did have to come back and win this game, but I mean, it's a good start. So hopefully we could pull it together. I mean, ideally, I would like us to win all the rest of the games of the season, but it's gonna be tough. I still sticking with my sixth at the end of the season. Now, it will hurt me very deeply, but it's not looking too great at the moment.
I know, like obviously, like Chelsea have gone through a lot of chop and change, but given like how the season has progressed, even if all they win the Conference League, if all they finish sixth, would you sack? Would you sack him?
Ask me that at the end of the season. I'll tell you
Cool,
for sure.
no problem. And lastly, one word from you all each about Virgil and Salah staying. Do you think this was the right move? And do you all believe that this would hinder any transfer move from them in the summer?
I would just like to say I would have done Trent and one of them, not both of them.
Me too,
Yeah.
fully. Me too.
But
Yeah.
I probably, I don't know who I would have done along with Trent, but I would have done Trent and one of them, not signed Salah and Van Dijk.
Yeah.
It's
Facts.
debatable for me. It's debatable for me. Only because, like, Trent still is a right back now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he affects the game as much as Van Dijk and Salah do. But he's so young that's the part that I debate in it. Because I genuinely don't think Trent affects the game more than Van Dijk. I don't think he affects it. He definitely don't affect it more than Salah, actually. The numbers say why. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough one.
81, you know.
Yeah, that's insane.
81%.
Yeah, but
That's
Like,
insane.
dog,
I
I can't get
genuinely
over that.
don't. Yeah, and
Let
then
me
Van
tell you,
Dijk
it's out
is
there.
all of the defense.
This real run now, but honestly, I feel Audrey engaged in some real shaky business, dog. Because, I mean, obviously, this season have a little while to go to the end still, eh? But every time somebody come close to breaking this bad record, all of a sudden, they stop getting assisted.
yeah, bro,
So,
Oh,
for
I don't
real.
know why it is. I mean, obviously, I don't want it to be broken. If I mean, the one time I wanted it broken was by Ozil and then worked out, but this what it is. Cool. I feel like we can leave it there, guys. This was obviously a very different kind of discussion. We obviously went into some different things, some bigger things as well. And this is the longest part we did in a really long while. But I do
yeah.
think that the entire conversation was really, really captivating. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we did too. You know, we wanted to do this pod for a really long time, actually, this particular conversation. And for what it's worth, my dog just win his 17th championship while we was recording this. So,
Well,
big up my dog, Charles Taylor, the greatest of all time. And with that, I'll end the podcast. Catch you guys next time. See you soon. Thank you guys so much. Share it with somebody. Take it easy.